Okay, so I'm going to go at the fourth task in the arrays section of top interview questions on Leetcode. It's called ContainsDuplicate. Okay, we're given an array of numbers. We need to return true if any value appears at least twice in the array, and return false if every element is distinct. Okay, now there's various ways we can do this, and I'm going to have a look at 3 different ways. Okay, so the first way I'm going to do it is I'm going to have 2 loops. An I loop that's going to loop through the value, so it's going to look at the first value, then the second value, then the third value, then the fourth value. But what we're going to do within that is we're going to have the J loop, and what the J loop is going to do is it's going to start from I plus 1 and it's going to loop through to the end. Then when we finish the J loop, we're going to move the I loop onto the next one, and we're going to loop J from I plus 1 to the end. Then I is going to go to the next one, and J is going to go to the end. And each time we do these loops, I'm going to check to see whether I is the same as J. If it is, I'm going to return true. If we get to the end of the whole process and we haven't found a duplicate, I'll return false. Okay, and I've added a test here. The first one, 1 2 3 1, should return true because the 1 appears twice, and the second one, 1 2 3 4, should return false because the same number doesn't appear in the list. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loop from the start of the array. I is less than num's length, which is to the end of the array, I plus plus, and then within that I'm going to loop from the index that we're looking at in the first loop, plus 1, to the end of the array, and we're going to go up 1 step at a time. And I'm going to say if nums at I equals nums at J, then return true. If we get to the end of looping through and looping within the loop there and we don't find a duplicate, I'm going to return false. So that's the first way of tackling this task. So we'll just test it and we'll see. We expect to see true and then false. So that's working. Now the next way we may want to do it is to take our original array and sort it. So I'll sort this array and turn it into 1 1 2 3. So we've just sorted the numbers ascending there. Now what I could do is I can loop from the start to the end minus 1. In the loop it would be the end minus 2 because we're indexing from 0. And I'll compare the number that we'll have this as I. I'll compare the number at I with the number at I plus 1. So really I'm comparing that number and that number. If they were different, I'd compare that number and that number. If they were different, that number and that number. And if they were different, I'd return false. If as I go through this loop I find any 2 numbers the same, I'll return true. Okay, so let's have a go at that one. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, array sort nums, and then I'm going to loop from the start to nums length -1. So A is less than nums length -1. So we're going to the last but one index of the array. And if nums at I equals nums at I plus 1, return true. If we get to the end and we haven't found a match, we return false. So let's have a test of that. True, false. So that works again. Now this way is, with the sorting, is better than the first way because we're only looping once through, but the sort is not going to be massively efficient. No sort method is really highly efficient. I'm not sure what the Java default array sort method is, but it's some sort of bubble sort, and if you've had a look at a bubble sort method or any other sorting method, there's always going to be a little bit of inefficiency in there. So that is not the way I'm going to choose to do it, and I'm not going to submit this method. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use a hash set. Now a hash set is a set of any object we want. It uses the hash of that object to give us a very efficient way to find that object again if we want to look at it. So if we were to use an array and we wanted to know if there was a 3 in this array, what we would do is we would loop through the array saying, is this one a 3? No it isn't. Is this one a 3? No it isn't. Is this one a 3? Yes it is, and we would say yes. If we had a very long array and we kept on asking it whether we had various numbers in it, we'd have to loop from the start each time looking for the number, and that wouldn't be efficient. But a hash set is going to be much more efficient. So if we ask a hash set, if we have the number 3 in there, it will quickly look it up using the hash, and it would tell us as quickly as possible whether the 3 is in the set. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my hash set, and I'm going to loop through the array. I'm going to look at the 1, and I'm going to say, does the set contain a 1? At the minute the set's empty, so the answer is no. And if the set doesn't contain a 1, I'm going to put it in there. Then I'm going to look at the 2. I'm going to say, does our set contain a 2? No it doesn't, so I'll put it in there. Then look at the 3. Does our set contain the 3? It doesn't, so I'll put it in there. Then I'll look at the 1. Does our set contain a 1? Yes it does, so I'll return true. If it didn't, I'd carry on. Now this may not seem much more efficient than the first method we did, but if you think, if we had that example where we had a million different numbers and then 2 at the end which are the same, we'll only be looping through the array once. So the time complexity here is O(n), n being the number of values in our array. So we're just going to loop through the array once and we'll get to the answer. The bigger the array, potentially the longer it's going to take us. But if we double the size of the array, we're going to double the length of time. We're not doing a loop within a loop, so we don't have an exponential increase in the length of time. So let's have a look at that method. So I'm going to say set of integers, I'll just call it set, equals new hash set. And then I'm going to go from the first number to the last number. I'm going to say if set contains the number that we're looking at, then return true. Else, or there's no need to put the else here because we'll have gone and returned true if we found that the set did contain the number, but else I'm going to add the number to the array. And once again, if we get to the end and we haven't found a match, I'll return false. So that's my favorite solution to this. I'll just check that it works. True, false. So that's worked. So that's the version that I'm going to submit on Leetcode. Okay, so for the runtime, it looks like we've done quite well there, and that's because I'm using the hash set. I'm not doing some loop within a loop or some sort. We can see there are much slower methods, but the hash set is the faster method. I'm not quite sure how we could do better, but maybe they just had some luck. Memory distribution. Okay, we did use the hash set, so we will have been adding to the hash set as we go along. There's going to be better methods. There's also some worse methods. I'm not sure what the solutions would be doing that were using up much more memory. I don't know. But that's my solution to Leetcode's ContainsDuplicate exercise. Thanks for watching.